Warning. Tongue and Geek contains heavy spoilers. If you haven't read, watched, or played the content being reviewed this episode, know that we will definitely spoil major plot points. Also, this show isn't for kids. We use words like and and it would take too much time and effort to edit them all out. Please don't tell our moms. Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to Tongue and Cheer, where two more white guys on the internet share their unsolicited opinions on all things holly and jolly. I'm Isaac.
I'm Tyler.
And for our final episode of this year's Tongue and Cheer, and the last episode of Tongue and Geek Season 2, we are reviewing Batman Returns, the 1992 sequel to 1989's Batman, directed by Tim Burton and written by Daniel Waters. Tyler, would you like to give us some background on this one?
Indeed. All right. Let's start at World War I.
Oh, God. The idea of Batman originated in...
That was just a little joke because the visual presentation of the movie, the set design and all that, was inspired by German Expressionism, which was an art movement, primarily film movement, post-World War I Germany, that uses abstract and highly subjective set and art design to visually represent the psychology of the characters.
With lots of faces, apparently. Faces everywhere.
Yes. Isaac doesn't understand faces.
There's lots of faces.
Background. I could just ramble. This is
Go,
one of those
boy.
episodes where I can.
This is like the Gremlins episode.
Okay,
this is your Christmas present. You got the reins.
Gremlins Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's fast forward from World War I to my childhood in the early 90s. I said it when we were watching this the other night that Batman Returns, over anything else Batman related, is my foundation, my bedrock of how I view and interpret Batman. Even over the animated series.
Wild.
Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, who just passed a few weeks ago. Broke
Very
my heart.
sad.
Well, it's not really wild, considering my age, my advanced age. For any of the Zoomies, the Zoomers that are in our audience, I don't know if we even have any. It's hard to talk about just how successful the first Batman movie was when it came out in 1989, also directed by Tim Burton. You know, obviously before internet, before virality and all that kind of stuff. It was fucking huge, like massive. It had one of the most prominent and successful marketing campaigns in film history. Jack Nicholson as the Joker got like one of the biggest paydays of all time. Batmania. They dubbed it Batmania because it was such a huge hit. I think it was definitely the biggest movie of 1989, and I think it's in the top 5 of the biggest movies of the 80s in general. Under like Return of the Jedi, E.T., Indiana Jones and Last Crusade, and maybe one more other movie. Big hit, of course. So, and Tim Burton was a fairly new director at the time. He had only directed, I think only Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice at this point. So he had Beetlejuice and Pee-wee under the belt. Mm-hmm. First one is still very much a Tim Burton movie, but he had, WB kind of breathing down his neck, the marketing kind of breathing down his neck. It couldn't be a complete Tim Burton movie. So when the first one blew the doors off, he's like, well, if you want me to make another one, it's got to be my movie.
Yeah.
And so WB said, all right, make your Batman movie. And Tim Burton made Tim Burton's Batman movie.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, that is either why people absolutely adore it or why some people absolutely hate it.
There's a quote.
Fast forward to release.
There's a quote by the writer, Daniel Waters, where he said that Burton and I never really had a conversation about what our fans of the comic books going to think. We never thought about them. We were really just about the art, which is nowadays.
You say that now.
Yeah, you say that now, and that sounds like sacrilege.
And you're going to blow up the internet. Yeah. Yeah. I've listened to some interviews with Daniel Waters, and he's hilarious about how he's just like, I don't give a shit about the fans. He hasn't said I don't give a shit about the fans, but more or less he's very sarcastic about it. Fast forward to 1992 and the movie's release, still made a shit ton of money, but not quite as much as the first one, and it caused a massive controversy because of its dark and violent nature.
Sexual nature.
Sexual nature. Very horny movie. We'll
get to that.
One of the funniest things is that there was a big licensing deal with McDonald's, and they had all the Happy Meal toys. And of course, McDonald's they didn't see the movie. They're just like, oh, no more Batman. We're going to have the McDonald's toys. And the movie's backlash started. They're like, hey, wait a second. This isn't like any of the toys at all. What the fuck did you guys do? Oh, God. They even had like they paraded a kid out like on stage at some like talk show to be like, as a child, I'm offended by the violence and scariness of this film.
This is your child voice, huh? Sounds like an 85-year-old woman.
Child voice. And I'm like, all right, kid, you're about like 12. I'm going to assume that they gave you a script and paraded you out here to say this shit. But if by some chance this is your actual opinion and you did this of your own volition, shame on you, child. Shame on you. Batman Returns had a very mixed reputation for a long time. But over the years, it has kind of become like the cult favorite Batman movie of all the Batman movies. It's the one that appeals to all the weirdos and the freaks and the miscreants and the outcasts, specifically for its unique tone, its unique vision, and just how it's pretty much not anything you associate comic book movies with.
Oh,
nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a kid, I always loved it because, you know, it was Batman and it was Penguin and it was Catwoman. I was just watching a Batman thing. I rediscovered it as a teenager. Ever since then, I've only fallen in love with the movie more as I've gotten over. So it's not just a nostalgia thing for me. It's a movie that I have reinterpreted and discovered a new appreciation for and new ways to look at it.
Aged like wine.
Yes, aged like wine. So yeah, I am a proud flag-waving member of the Batman Returns Kicks Fucking Ass Club.
I've got some fun bits of trivia here about the making of this movie. First off, that scene with Catwoman putting the bird in her mouth, totally real. No CGI, no practical effects. She actually put a live bird in her mouth.
Yeah, which scary for the bird, scary for Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, PETA had a fit over that one. The circus monkey that is part of like the gang that the Penguin runs attacked DeVito's balls during the scene where it delivers Batman's note. Yeah, during the scene where it was coming down the stairs to deliver that note from Batman. While they were shooting that, it jumped at Danny DeVito's balls. He had all that padding on, which saved him, but like, yeah, it went right for him because apparently he was terrified of his makeup.
Oh, that's hilarious. And that's something out of It's Always Sunny right there.
It's going right for my balls, Charlie. And the last one, Batman does not wear boots in the movie. They're Air Jordan 6s, which were connected to an upper, which give the boot-like feeling. So Batman's got his Jordans on the whole film.
Yeah, he wore Nikes in the first one, too. God, where the hell to start with? Let's give a quick plot synopsis just because, get that out of the way. It's not really plot-driven. It's mostly character-driven. It's basically Penguin rises to power from living in the sewers after being thrown out by his rich piece-of-shit parents as a baby. Raised by penguins in the sewers, yes. Raised by penguins in the sewers.
Traditional penguin stuff.
He blackmails and hooks up with the dark mirror of Bruce Wayne in this movie called Max Schreck, who is a creation of the film and not a real Batman villain.
Oh, there's a lot of dark mirrors of Batman in this, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's a big theme of the story. First, Penguin just wants to find his parents, realizes they're dead, hatches a scheme with Max to run for mayor, which becomes successful. And amidst this, we have the origin of Selena Kyle in this universe, Catwoman, who is murdered by Max Schreck because she is his assistant and she stumbles upon a scheme of his. And she is birthed as Catwoman through supernatural means, which is something a lot of people have problems with. And in between, you have Batman just kind of being his own fucking wacko, trying to deal with it all, trying to deal with the Penguin, trying to deal with his burgeoning love for Selina, and hopefully saving the day? Question mark. I think a good avenue into discussing it is what I said before about how this movie really isn't representative of how we as audience members view and experience superhero movies today, because it's right. I've heard it described by some critics as an anti-blockbuster, and I think that's kind of apt because it's got a big budget, it's gorgeous to look at, it's got action in it, but like it's so, for a superhero movie, it's not heroic.
Yeah.
And not in like an anti-hero kind of way, but in like these are just all broken people doing what they think they have to do kind of way. There's not really a feeling of triumph even in the finale. Just like there's no sense of like the heroes. I mean, there's bits of Batman's morality clashing against the others, but it's really not the focus of the film. The focus is on just how all of these different characters, villains especially, are dealing with their individual trauma and unhinged nature, and, you know, just watching them degrade throughout the film. And, I'm sorry, my cat is screaming in the background. Yeah. She just loves this movie. That's through a door. She's just screaming from the hallway. I want to talk about the movie. I want to talk about Batman. The first shot that we see of Bruce Batman in the movie is he's just sitting alone in his fucking mansion, just brooding, just sitting there waiting to be doing needed. Nothing. And then the bat signal comes through the window, and he's filled with his sense of purpose. He's alive again. He's got something to do. And I love this portrayal of Batman because he's such a malleable character. He's one of the more malleable comic book characters in comics. I just like it when he's just a weirdo semi-recluse who doesn't really know how to function when he's not, you know, on the mission. When he's totally broken. He's broken in this movie, but not in a way that's like melodramatic or anything like that. It's just we actually see him functioning like as the Bruce Wayne persona more in this than we do in Batman 89. In Batman 89, he's just complete weirdo the whole time, but here we actually see him oppose Shrek as Bruce Wayne, as a representative of Wayne Enterprises. Of course, when he meets Selina, he did like weird recognizes weird, damage recognizes damage. So they're attracted to each other because they see what's underneath the surface, and of course there's that whole when are they going to find out aspect, which is romance. Like, oh my god, they are both so bad at hiding their secret identities. Like there's a point where they're both like walking down the street looking at the headlines in the newspapers, and like Bruce is like, oh, I can't believe they're blaming Batman for all this stuff, and Selina's like, I can't believe they're like calling out Catwoman for this, and like it's like they're just walking. Oh, they're so bad at it. It's a good way that's a good way to explain just how much of its own world this movie is. This is a fairy tale. This is a fantasy world. There is no attempt for this Gotham, this version of Batman, to be grounded in any real sort of reality. It's a complete storybook sort of version of a comic book movie. It can get away with the sillier things like that, like, you know, in a more grounded modern superhero movie, that kind of dialogue would be like, oh my god, like how or are they not like, hey, wait a second, you're talking kind of funny. Don't Batman? Get me started on the one-liners in this. There's there's so many. I think Italy is actually just quoting the scene where Catwoman comes in after Penguin and Batman fight a little bit. She walks right up to both of them, looks at them and says, meow, and then an explosion goes off behind her, and that's her introduction to those two characters. Just meow. Blew up like a shopping mall. I don't know about you, Miss Kitty, but I'm feeling so much yummier. Life's a bitch, now so am I. Oh my. I think my favorite, though, is Batman. He said, eat floor, high fiber. Floor, high fiber. which kind of comes out of nowhere because he's not really a one-liner guy. And like all of a sudden, he's just got this goofy ass liner when he's.
Catwoman said something about being hungry, and he's like, "Eat floor, high fiber," and he like knocks her to the ground. Oh boy.
Oh god, I'm in that pickle where like
there's so much to talk about.
So many things. Yeah, so many things I want to touch on, but
you want to start with the Penguin since he's so crucial to this?
Yeah, let's start with the Pengy, Mr. Peng Peng. The film begins with his origin. We fade in on a big mansion. It could be the Wayne mansion for all we know. The two rich people that we see first could be the Waynes for all we know, but we soon find out that it's not. They have some type of baby monstrosity in some kind of cage /
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because it's like the movie tries to set up some sympathy for the Penguin to showing like his abandonment from his parents. He's literally tossed into the sewers. But in the opening scene with him, we see like him from a cage reach out and eat a cat as an infant. Yeah. So like it's kind of doing this weird interplay of like, is he inherently a monster? Were his parents justified to get rid of this thing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you know, if anybody has the resources to, you know, help their child that likes to eat cats, it's rich people of Gotham. The movie kind of is wordlessly saying like, oh, they're not going to bother. It's not going to be good for their image. This because he's physically deformed. His hands are fused to they kind of look like flippers, and he's got the big nose. Just toss him and get rid of him. Nobody will be the wiser.
Like a reverse Superman, I think you called it, where he's just tossed into the sewer.
Yes, kind of a perverse Superman origin. Yeah,
adopted by penguins in the sewer. Why? I know it's an abandoned zoo, but like, why did the sewers connect to the penguin exhibit? That's so fucked.
Because. This is Burton's Gotham, my friend. This is Burton's Gotham. I love the whole credit sequence where we're just following the carriage to the sewer. But a lot of birthing imagery, a lot of yonic imagery to be seen. The sewers can kind of be read as a birth canal because this is the birth of the Penguin. At one point, we see the carriage kind of take on the shadow form of a penguin as it crosses a wall. Blink and you'll miss it moment. And he reaches home base, and then there's penguins there, and cut to the future, where he's watching Gotham citizens from the sewers. I love the way they there's so much good visual storytelling in this movie. Oh! We just see his gloved hands gripping the sewer grates, and the big beautiful Christmas tree in the town square is framed right dead center between the bars, just kind of like he's down there. And he's like the dregs of society, never had a chance. The privileged threw him out, and they're the privileged are right there looking at, you know, this like idol of just like, you know, false joy and happiness and goodwill. He might be a disgusting, perverted monster, but like all good villains in comic book movies, he sort of has a point until he goes too far.
Oh yeah, but don't get us wrong, he is a monster.
Very much.
He somehow was taught English and adopted by a freak show, like a traveling circus.
Red Triangle.
Yeah. Somehow came in contact with them and learned English from them, and the penguins didn't teach him English. But like,
yes.
We don't get too many details of how his past all kind of came together, but at some point he got taken in by that circus. Then he somehow took over the circus and, you know, started doing crimes in search of revenge and his parents.
And he has enough information from just digging through trash, because he's the trash man, to frame Max Schreck, who is, you know, your immoral, terrible, evil businessman.
Whose plan makes no sense. Okay, Max Schreck's plan is that he wants to open a new power plant in Gotham, except secretly this power plant will drain energy from Gotham instead of producing it, which is like the first time someone tries to turn the lights on and they don't work after they set up the Max Schreck power plant. People are going to immediately be suspicious.
We're not given enough information to know how it's going to work. I mean, I assume that the siphoning effect will work insofar as like it doesn't just shut people's power off. It just it's a continual suckage, I would say. That's my theory anyway. It's funny you mentioned the power plant thing because, excuse me,
Daniel Waters so goddamn burpy this holiday season.
I'm not even drinking anything. Like, I don't know, maybe it's the stress. Daniel Waters wrote the script, but there was an uncredited touch-up by Wesley Strick. He was like, yeah, he at first I was kind of annoyed by some of the things he added and changed, but one thing I won't forgive him for is adding that goddamn power plant subplot. Like, goddamn. So Daniel Waters didn't like the power plant subplot either. But I like it because it gives a chance for Bruce Wayne to kind of be Bruce Wayne, even if it's just a little bit. To see him actually throw his weight behind something when he's not in the bat suit. The power plant thing doesn't bother me too much. Getting back to how it's more character focused and plot driven, the Penguin, he doesn't have like an overarching scheme, Charlie. God damn it, I'm going to be making so many songs.
Well, he does, but we don't really see it. You really are. He does have a scheme, but it doesn't really get enacted until like the final act. Basically, once everything falls apart. Yeah, it's his like, I have this if everything else falls apart.
Because when he finds out that his parents are like, he didn't know his parents were dead. Like that's like a real thing. Like he was genuinely looking for them and searching for them. So
yeah,
what he wanted to do if he found them and they embraced him or whatever, we don't know. But
kill and eat them for sure.
Dead, that's probably maybe. But once he finds out they're dead, that's when Max Schreck sees, the chance to have him run for mayor. Which this whole Penguin running for mayor thing is just... Do we want to get into how sadly applicable it is 30 years later to politics?
Yeah. So...
and how people can just create images and cults of personality and...
There are parts of it where you think, oh, that's so exaggerated, and then you just pause a moment and think about the last 6 years, and you're like, no, it's really not. If anything, there are parts of it that are a little too grounded for reality. Like, there's... Yeah.
I think before...
It all falls apart because they play a clip of the Penguin saying that he like played Gotham like a fiddle or something. Like
harp from hell is the word.
Like a harp from hell. Basically, he's just saying, like I've tricked all these suckers. And it's very optimistic of the film to assume that the people who were going to vote for this nasty little goblin man would turn on him after hearing that, because God knows we have enough evidence of people saying and doing horrible shit, and they didn't lose any of their political power.
Yep. That's the most unrealistic thing in this ridiculous movie is people actually turning on the politician when it's revealed that they've said or done something terrible.
There's a point where he's at a rally. There's a point where he's at a rally and like this young woman comes up to him, like this college student or something, and she's like, I think you're a great inspiration for, the younger generation to have. And he's like, and I think you're a great piece of the younger generation for the mayor to have. And he like very, very pervertedly takes one of his buttons and pins it right on her booba. Like super, like, I'm going to fuck you. And like people are watching, there are cameras rolling, and it's like, nobody cares about this. He bites a dude's nose off at one point.
Oh, not off. He just makes it gush blood. One of the out of left field violent parts that had people in a tizzy. I remember that part kind of skeeving me out as a kid when that happened, because you don't expect it. Like one of the political handlers like says something snide like, didn't have many mirrors, reflective surfaces down there in the sewers, did you? And Penguin's like, well, it could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. And the guy's like, what? And he just lunges and bites it, and you see this giant jet of blood just squirt out of his nose.
And then Max Schreck just, brushes it under the rug. He's like, everybody get back to work. And everybody's just cool with it.
And that's just like another, like, how many gaffes have politicians have had at like rallies and stuff like that, where like they say something stupid or they do something cringy and like inappropriate, and it's just it's a thing for a while, and then we just sweep it under the rug.
Remember when it was funny? You remember when it was funny, like the one who quoted the Pokemon movie? That was funny. That's a politician's quoting the Pokemon movie. So funny, so silly. Can't believe this is where we're at politically. And then, like, next year...
Who's the guy that literally tanked his entire political career because he got, like, overzealous at a rally? Who is that guy? He was the guy that goes, yeah! Like, just him doing that tanked his entire fucking political career. And, like, fast forward to now, and it's just like, that wouldn't even be a blip. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Anyway. A lot of political messages in this film that are surprisingly still relevant.
Yes. Surprisingly, no. Sadly.
While we're on that, the police in this movie freaking suck. Bad. Every time
worst police force ever depicted in a superhero movie.
Every time the Penguin's goons show up and start wreaking havoc and firing off their guns, not a policeman in sight. The second that, like, Batman gets framed for a murder, 6 police officers rush up to the top of the building and open fire on him, like, immediately.
The Batman pushed the princess!
Oh god, they're like so trigger happy when there's no threat to them, and when there is a threat, they're all out of sight. Too fucking real.
Or during the finale, when the Penguin has his goons kidnapping literal children, there's not a fucking cruiser in sight as this big train.
They're not being settled. They're
chugging down the street.
Train.
Oh, Gotham. Poor Gotham. Everybody should just move. Everybody should just relocate.
Just burn it down and start
Do what Seattle did and build a new Gotham over the old Gotham. Should we talk about Penguin's perviness, or...
Yeah, sure. It's bad. I mean, it's good for the film, but, like, he is a nasty, nasty boy.
Another aspect that had parents in a tizzy busy. He says something about, like, I want to show her my French flipper trick. Constantly hitting on Catwoman.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, when Catwoman coming in, he's like, "There's the pussy I was looking for."
He's got lube by the side of the bed.
Ugh, so gross. He's so gross, and not because of his physical deformities. It's not that. It's the way.
No, not that.
It's the way he talks and looks at women in every scene. It's just so gross. Like I said, it's hard to tell how much the movie wants you to sympathize with him. The movie definitely wants you to sympathize with Catwoman. But, like, the Penguin, it's more like, it's kind of showing his tragedy as, like, tragic origins, whatever, but it's not an excuse for this nasty little goblin man that exists.
Oh, no, not at all. But I'm not gonna lie, like, during the, Penguin procession funeral at the end, where the Penguin's just like a, what do you call it? They just, like...
waddle alongside him.
Guide him. Just waddling alongside him as he's sliding down the little ramp into the water when he's dead. Like, that kind of gets me every time.
I don't know why. He was a terrible person.
He was, maybe not for him, but maybe for the Penguins. Because I was going to say we don't see him mistreat the Penguins, but
he strapped missiles to him and was using a signal to mind control them all.
I was going to say he did make him a bunch of kamikazes.
He was going to blow all of his family up.
Catwoman. Catwoman is probably the most iconic aspect of this movie. People, even if people hate this movie, they love Catwoman, and Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman in this movie. She definitely has the most emotional and sympathetic arc in the movie, even if she herself far from a hero. Just really good economical storytelling, because we meet her in Max Schreck's office during a meeting, and she's mousy, and she's kind of... She's not stupid or harebrained or anything. She's just kind of stressed the fuck out.
She's a worn-down working woman in a man's society.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Obviously she has, no appreciation, no recognition.
A lot of sexism in this. A lot of sexism depicted in this film. We've said this a million times. Depiction is not endorsement. I just want to get that out there.
Yes. It's a bad thing.
It is a prevalent theme that the movie explores.
She's just kind of that character, where life just isn't kind to her, just doesn't go her way. Everything's just a big old lump of shit. she has one little mistake and messes up at the job, and then she's beating herself up over that, and then she comes home. She's in this little kitschy, cheap apartment. It's all just like pink walls, and her mother's a nag, and her boyfriend breaks up with her over the answering machine. Just, not living a good life. To be a good employee, to go above and beyond, she goes back to the office to, I can't remember specifically, but that's where she stumbles upon the power plant scheme.
And she went because she was looking for the Wayne files for like his meeting with Bruce Wayne the next day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Wayne files. Yep. Shrek catches her. It becomes tense right away because she knows what she found and she's trying to play it off, and he's threatening her, and it gets to the point where he's got her backed against the window, fakes her out about hurting her just to make her have her guard down, and then pushes her out the window where she falls I don't know how many stories. This is another thing where Batman purists get really annoyed. Like, how does that even make sense? Does she die? Did she not die? How do the cats have the power to bring her back to life?
Yeah, a swarm of alley cats just run all over her, gnaw at her fingers and stuff, and it resurrects her. So. And,
I mean, I kind of get it, because it is kind of oh, okay, that happened. But because the world is so heightened, because the tone is so fantasy-esque, it's never bothered me, even as a cynical adult. It's never bothered me. Because there's something kind of elemental happening with the three central characters in this movie. They're kind of totemic in a way. They're all represented by animals. They're all mirrors and reflections of each other. They're all marred by some kind of tragedy, and their animals are just kind of representative of that.
Every major character in this film is a dark reflection of Batman in some form, which is good because
Penguin, Catwoman, and even Shrek.
It's good because this film really doesn't focus on Batman himself as character, which in the past I've said, he's one of my least interesting elements of the Batman stories I like. But here it works because what we're seeing, we know the mythos of Batman at this point, and even though it's changing that, we're seeing all these different ways that the same general story beats, super influential billionaire, an orphan, and someone who basically had their life restarted after trauma. All of that is being reflected through him, so we don't need to see Batman himself really undergoing so much of his own character arc. We're seeing how all of the ways his character arc could have gone wrong.
Yeah, you understand Batman through the other characters. And that's what makes it work. We don't need some, like, I don't know what the word would be. We don't need anything more, I keep saying grounded and realistic, but I guess that's the only thing I can think of. We don't need anything more grounded and realistic because the movie does such a good job of making you understand him through the other characters, while we're also doing a good job of understanding these other characters. I kind of liken, like, Gotham is sort of, you can almost kind of see it as like Batman's mind, and he's just kind of like fighting with these different aspects of himself in his own mind. After Selina gets resurrected and she goes back to her apartment, it might be my favorite scene in the movie. Because it's so emotional and it's so raw, and Danny Elfman's score just knocks it out of the park. She's just like, you can see, like, she is different now. She has everything that she did not like about herself, about how the world has treated her. She's not having it anymore. And she just, what makes her fucking lose it is just this terrible sexist answering machine ad that she has for Shrek department store perfume about how, wear it and, like, the boss will want to invite you to a candlelit dinner.
Yeah, right after her boss shoved her out a window.
Yeah, and she loses it. She starts smashing up her apartment, spraying things black. She's destroying everything that was her old
Selina
self.
Kyle's dead at this point.
Yeah. And now we have Catwoman. And just fans love this fucking shot where you previously it's established that she has this little neon sign that says hello there. She walks by and she bashes two bulbs, but we don't see the aftermath of that until a couple minutes later, with the camera zooming out of the apartment window and it says hell here. And oh, it's so good. Like, I've seen so much fan art rendition of that shot. It's so fucking cool. And She just stitches together the Catwoman outfit out of just like vinyl, just skin tight vinyl, and she's got these like sewing claws. She stitches together her new life just like violently and rapidly, and she kind of just becomes this anarchist sort of vigilante, just out to do whatever the hell she wants to do.
Yeah,
because she's not shackled to her old life anymore.
Yeah, she represents that element of Batman, the wild vigilante. She's not like how she is in the comics, where she's, a jewel thief that Batman runs into every now and then and kind of walks that gray line. She is his dark mirror of, I'm going out and getting my own justice, except I don't have the same ethics that you do. Although, to be fair, Batman doesn't have a no-kill rule in this world. He blows up a dude with a bomb and he sets another guy on fire with the Batmobile, so it's kind of unclear exactly what separates Batman's ethics from hers.
Yeah, it does get a little muddy there. We could go on a whole tangent about the no-kill rule.
We've done it before. I'll just do it anyway. Okay.
Although the two Burton films, are still beloved today, are still considered great by many, there's still that contingent of Batman fans that are just like, they fucking suck. He kills in those movies. That's not Batman. And I just want to say, when Batman first hit the comic scene in 1939 for the first year and a half of his publications, it's not a long time, granted, but still, it's the first iteration of Batman. He killed people. Unequivocally killed them. He was conceived and written and designed to be a dark, foreboding figure of the night that sought vigilante justice.
Yeah, we've definitely had this.
He even used guns.
Tyler,
he even used guns.
We've had this exact conversation before. This is Did you realize that this is our 4th Batman themed episode of this year?
I did not know that.
Yeah, we did the Batman animated series, we did The Batman, we did the Harley Quinn series, and this is our 4th.
Oh, I forgot about
We have done more Batman this year than we have Sonic, which I know sounds like a lot, because we did a lot of Sonic, but this has been 2022 has been the year of Batman and Sonic.
As it should be.
When are we getting that crossover?
Okay, well, I'm sorry for making you listen to the same spieling.
What I want to say about the absence of the no-kill rule here, and the discussion I want to take that towards, is we see Batman kill some people in this. He kills some members of the Red Circle gang, or whatever, the clowns that the Penguin runs. But he's not willing to kill Max at the end of it, even though he knows all of the evidence of Max's crimes. He's not willing to let Selina kill Max at the end of it, because even though he knows all the evidence of her crimes. So the discussion I want to have here is, what really separates Batman's killings from Catwoman's?
I guess pretty much the only thing you could say is that Batman's killings are more circumstantial. When he flips the Batmobile around on that giant stump that he has in the middle of it.
I love that.
And ignites the jet engine, and it sets the guy on fire. You could argue the intent wasn't to.
Tyler, he set a man on fire.
I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying he's not out to seek.
He literally smiled at one of the clowns as he placed a bomb on his chest.
That's true. But he had to get rid of a bomb, and as Adam West Batman says, sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb. So, basically you could.
But
just
he
say,
smiled about it, Tyler.
A hypocrite.
He took glee in that man's death.
We saw no flames during the explosion.
Yeah, okay, because flame is the only element of an explosion that's lethal, not the high impact concussive blast and the shrapnel.
You can say that he's a hypocrite.
Yes.
And I think that's fine, because I think the reason he doesn't want to kill Shrek is because he sees redemption in Selina and he doesn't want her to go down that path. So I think that's where the hypocrisy comes out, is like, oh God,
he doesn't want
she's just like me.
He doesn't want her to.
He says it
be like him.
Yeah, because he knows he's taken life before, and he knows he'll do it again. He doesn't want her to be that, because he loves her, and it's so tragic, and it's sad, and which brings me to the romance aspect. Selena and Bruce don't really spend a lot of time together, but their chemistry just works. and you just, for me at least, and for a lot of people love the ship. It just kind of works. You get it and you buy into it. And by the time they're at that gala, it's a costume ball and they're the only ones not in a mask, which symbolism. They find out that they're both he's Batman, she's Catwoman, because they're quoting something that they said in costume to each other before. And just the look on their face is just like, oh shit. Selena's distraught. The way she says,
do we have to fight now?
She says, does we have to start fighting now? It's almost childlike because she found something to latch onto, something to maybe take her away from the path she's going down, because earlier we see her, she's just kind of like lost in her own thoughts in the street. She's just like looking at herself in a window like, what am I doing? What are you doing, Selena? And Batman is still a bit too naive in thinking that there could be a happy ending for them. Selena knows that there can't, no matter how much they might feel for each other and see each other reflected in themselves. During the big finale in the Penguin's lair, when she's going to take out Shrek, she's like, I'd love to live with you in your castle like a princess, but I just couldn't live with myself. He gets shot. Batman gets shot by Shrek, and she uses one of her 9 lives to fucking metal as shit. She puts a taser in her mouth and goes in to kiss him while holding an electrical wire, and it electrocutes Shrek into a big old burnt sausage, basically. And she's nowhere to be found. Leaving Batman broken and alone yet again. And God, it's such a downer movie. It really is. It does not end on a triumphant note at all.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Mr. Wade.
Alfred is like the only non-hurt, broken person in this whole movie. He's the only one that actually seems to like Christmas, to be comfortable, to be happy, even though he's got to babysit Bruce's entire life. It just ends on this melancholy note of, Bruce thinks he sees her in an alley. He just finds like a stray cat and he adopts it and brings it home. Merry Christmas, sir, says Alfred. And Batman's just like, Merry Christmas, Alfred. Goodwill toward men and women. And then just roll credits as we get the tease that Catwoman is still alive out there. God. I can't think of any superhero movies that truly end on a note that dour. Maybe you can say Infinity War, but I think that's a little different because that's obviously a cliffhanger.
It's obviously a cliffhanger. It's also it's
obviously meant to culmination. Yeah,
a culmination of an ongoing story arc.
It's its own
standalone thing. Yeah.
And I guess what I keep coming back to with this movie and what I appreciate about it so much is that this is back when superhero movies were just movies. Of course, they're big budget. They have these huge marketing pushes. Of course, they're still mainstream entertainment. But it's still in that period where I guess you could say they didn't know what they were doing. And they actually let filmmakers put their artistic stamp on things.
It wasn't rote.
And so Batman Returns was just allowed to be Batman Returns, As it ages, as the train of the superhero genre just keeps chugging along without end today, like all of these past movies, like I'm just going to say it, pre-MCU, pre-shared universe, they're just ripe for constant reevaluation, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon because
there's no formula established yet. As the Green Goblin says in Spider-Man, back to formula? That's what happened with the MCU. We went back to formula. We got stuck in it. And it became the same old routine. For about a good 5 or 6 years of the MCU, everyone was on board because it was like, yeah, this is a new fresh take on superhero films where it's all connected in this big overarching story. You see all these characters making cameos and all these hints at what's coming next. But like when that becomes the norm for superhero films, you just stop caring because it's like, okay, it's just a big long commercial for the next thing. With these older films, there wasn't a formula yet. We didn't know what we had the comics books to go off of, but adapting a comic book to a film was not a 1-to-1 ratio, and these creators were still trying to figure out, like, you know, how much of the original essence do we put in? How much do we move away from it? How much do we focus on, like, the heroics of it versus the tragedy of it? Because comics are weird. Comics are all over the place weird. They can be wacky, goofy.
We say that in every comic book based episode we've done. I think at some point we all say comics are fucking weird.
And with total love in our hearts, because they can go from like the wackiest, silliest shit to like the most dramatic and shocking moments, like stuff you'd never see put to screen. It is wild, the range that a comic can go through in a single issue, even.
And that's why we love them so much, is because they're just, even though in so many ways comics are bound to like a certain status quo that they have to keep repeating, like within that status quo they can do whatever the hell they want. Like if you try to describe a superhero comic to somebody who has no idea what superheroes are, they'd be like, what? So you're telling me like a rich guy, like, because he can't get over that his parents were killed in front of him, he dresses up like a bat and he fights crime? What? That sounds stupid as shit.
Sometimes it's played for laughs. Sometimes it's played totally straight. Sometimes it's subverted in horrifyingly dark ways. Like, there are so many ways that the comics reinterpret these characters, and adapting it to film before MCU, we didn't have like a way of making that work for mainstream audiences. We just had to guess. We just had to, figure out how to make our own creative takes on these comics and present them in a way that was palatable for the mainstream audiences.
It's kind of a new phenomenon, the superhero genre as it is now, because it's going full steam ahead and for so long. And by full steam ahead, we all know it's not just like 1 movie a year, 2 movies a year. It's 4 to 6 movies a year if you count, the occasional DC movie that'll come out alongside with Marvel movies, and TV shows that you have to watch to keep up with now. And because it's all coming out at such volume, so steadily, it's like, it feels like the window for reevaluation for older movies just like 5 or so years ago is bigger now. I just watched The Wolverine again.
Yeah.
Which came out in 2013. That wasn't that long ago. 2013 wasn't that long ago. The Wolverine is like completely fresh in my eyes now as like some new experience, just because there's been so many of these things.
Yes.
That a movie that's only like 6 years old or whatever. 9. Oh God, yeah. Jesus. Fuck me. 9 years old at this point is suddenly like this would I see the Wolverine with these eyes that I have now just rewatching it if we haven't had so many superhero movies since? I don't think so. Back in 2013, we just had the Avengers. That was the like last big thing that came out. The X-Men franchise was still going kind of strong, and like just 9 years ago, the landscape for superhero movies was completely different. So when you rewind that back all the way to 1992 for Batman Returns, it's like, holy crap, this came out in 1992? This is the weirdest, darkest, creepiest shit in the world. How did this come out in 1992? Which is a long, pretentious way for me to say the age-old saying that they wouldn't make this movie today at all.
It's not safe.
Not in the way it exists. Not in the overt sexuality, the horniness of all the characters, the shocking images. Like the Penguin's like leaking green black ooze from his mouth like the whole movie.
He's fucking gross. He wears this onesie under his coat at all times, and it's just stained and soiled and stretched out over his body. And he's not pleasant to look at.
And his end game, he's going to kidnap and murder the firstborn.
Yeah, he goes biblical.
And like that's so oh my gosh, like that's different than Thanos with a glove with stones in it snapping to like destroy half the universe. That's a concept too big to comprehend on a level that's like personal. You know?
And that's a good way of putting it. A lot of superhero stuff now, not all of it, but a lot of it doesn't feel personal anymore. Like, we keep going for grander and grander stakes and more spectacle, even though special effects are getting cheaper and faster and more rushed every year. But, like, it's becoming more and more spectacle only and less focus on the actual, individual character journeys going on. We've got the same old formula of new bad guy shows up, says their stuff, hero has like a moment where they question. It's the basic Campbell's hero's journey. We've just thrown a new fresh coat of paint on it. Whereas with Batman Returns, it's not like a hero's journey. Like, it's not very heroic even. Like, Batman, he's trying.
Yeah, I mean, he saves kids and, he wants to and tries to save everybody he can, but it's still
and it's not even really focused on him. Like, Catwoman and Penguin are much more the focus of the film, and having a movie, well, I guess you could say with Infinity War it was more focused on Thanos than the rest of the characters, but like having the villains be the central focus of the film and having their arcs be the driving force is not something we see very often anymore.
Because I think now the whole appeal is the character, the hero, and that sounds obvious. If you're going to make a superhero movie, you got to make it about the superhero. But now it seems like it's more, okay, how can we make this a personality that's marketable, that's memeable, that, we could slap on a bunch of t-shirts and,
And the sad thing is the villains suffer for it. Villains have always been... Thanos is great. I like Thanos, but he's an outlier. Amongst all of the villains in the MCU, he's an outlier. There's maybe like 3 or 4 good MCU villains, and the rest are serviceable at best. That you don't watch an MCU film for the villains, which is sad, because villains are such a cool part, such an integral part of the superhero comic genre. A villain defines the messages and themes that you're going to explore in your story. So when your villain is just like a plot device with no real personality or charisma, with just a generic same old, I'm gonna destroy the world plot, it loses all of its weight. Like, even if the action is fun, even if the one-liners are quippy and funny and everything, the weight of the narrative is just lost because our antagonistic force just doesn't feel like something we can get invested in.
We touched on this in our Raimi Spider-Man trilogy episode. Too many of these movies now, they're so insular in their focus, where it's just about the heroes and their interpersonal problems and problems they create themselves that they have to fix. The outside world that the superheroes are supposed to protect either doesn't exist, in the framework of the narrative, or is just like a very superfluous background element that doesn't matter. So much of what makes those Sam Raimi movies memorable and beloved by people is because that New York in those movies is populated with so many characters. Just one-off characters who might have like one line, but like that one moment of that character who says something funny that flushes out the
pizza
world.
Guy who says
that
"Whoa!"
Personality. Yeah, that whole montage in the first Spider-Man movie where like it's man on the street interviews, like that's the kind of personality, that's the kind of human element that these superhero movies don't have anymore.
We forget why we're actually saving the world in a lot of the modern stuff. It's like, why should we care if these people get saved? They don't even feel like people. They just feel like shapes in the background. They're crash test dummies that need to get moved out of the way of, getting broken.
And we always say we don't want to shit on the MCU, but I think we're
because it's gotten so bad. Like in the last year, it's gotten so bad. Last year, when we had some hope for it, there were some merits, but like it's become more and more obvious that it's just a cash grab formula with glimmers of gold in between the trash. And it sucks.
Yeah, that's why after Guardians 3, I'm tapping out for good, and unless something comes along that genuinely makes me think that there's hope. Come on, heroes.
I've got no interest in the next 2 Avengers films or phases or whatever the hell's coming next.
I know. Can you imagine, like, if I told you that in circa 2016, hey, Isaac, about 8-9 years from now, they're going to be doing Secret Wars. They're going to be doing Kang Dynasty. How fucking cool is that?
I would have been like,
but you're not going to care. But you're not going to care. Would you have laughed in my face? Probably.
I would have probably been like, they're still doing Marvel in 8 to 9 years. They haven't rebooted yet.
Fair enough.
You know, it's sad when you're asking for a reboot because it's just like, God, can we just start over? You know?
Well, that's what DC's doing now, and everybody is absolutely in a tizzy because, oh God, have you heard the news?
What?
Have you read the news today? Oh boy.
Oh no. What happened?
You saw Black Adam, and you liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. You saw that Henry Cavill had a cameo at the end.
They recast Superman?
Well, they made a whole big kerfluffle a couple months ago where they announced Henry Cavill officially back as Superman. This decision was made before the James Gunn and his creative partner were brought on board to shepherd the new era of DC movies. Today, announced Henry Cavill is no longer Superman.
Oh no! How could they do this?
James Gunn himself is writing the new Superman movie. It's unclear if he's going to direct it or not. I love Henry Cavill's Superman. I'm not gonna get into it with you. I know you have contentions about the Zack Snyder movies.
I love Henry Cavill as an actor.
As much as I love those movies, and as much as I desperately wanted another Henry Cavill Superman, and it sucks he's not going to do it anymore. Like at this point, I'm ready to just move on. I'm ready to just be excited that there's an actual creative head of DC now that knows his shit, that is coming up with an actual plan to move forward, and that we're going to be getting some new movies finally, without people worrying about what's canon, what's not canon. Bring this person back. Don't bring this person back. We want to wipe the slate clean. Let's move forward, because at the end of the day, I just want DC movies. I want to care about a comic book franchise again. So James Gunn's got a lot of headache coming his way, but I don't think he would have taken the job if
Ninja Turtles is good. That's a comic book.
Ninja Turtles,
it's an adaptation of a comic book.
That's a comic book
series.
thing.
Yeah, it was originally a comic. They've been doing great, putting out good stuff.
Yeah, the best comic book movie of this year after the Batman is The Rise of the...
Oh, God, so good. So good. Go watch it. Even if you haven't watched the series, go watch it. The animation will blow you away.
Oh, superheroes, what have you done to us as a culture?
What else about Batman Returns, though?
I don't know. I just fucking I love this movie. It's one of my favorite superhero movies. It's my favorite Batman movie. It's one of my favorite. The
lighting in this film is so constantly dramatic, and it's great.
Oh, yes. It's a gorgeous look.
You have this scene where Batman's brooding, waiting on the signal. It's just his face lit, and everything behind him is pitch black until the light pierces through the darkness. You got the scene where the Penguin's at the graveyard where his parents were buried, and you just have these streams of sunlight coming down on him over this, right in front of this church, where it gives this aura of you're not entirely sure what to feel. It's because you're watching this weird, grotesque monster man walking down. And I'm not saying that about his physical deformities. I'm saying that because he's a literal actual monster who has hurt all these people. But in this moment, there's this weird serenity and calmness to him that's like, it's so conflicting that it gives you all these weird emotions around what's going on, and you're not sure entirely how much you're supposed to see it as like a sincere, impactful moment for him, or like a chance for him to continue building his reputation in the way he wants. And the lighting does so much for that.
Yeah, the probably gonna butcher the cinematographer's name, Stefan Zapsky. He shot the hell out of the movie, and I think I mentioned before the production designer Bo Welch. Just everything he does with Gotham here makes it a world. It
took up 50% of Warner Brothers' lots to do this movie.
Oh yeah, huge sets. I remember reading this old review that came out when the movie came out that actually dissed the visuals of the movie, and they said it just looks like this movie that was dipped in an inkwell. And I'm like, yes, that's what's appealing about it. It's got this it almost looks like a black and white movie at times, because like the blacks are so black and it's contrasted against the snow. It's just like this beautiful dark fairy tale looking movie. And you said I like how the sky is just pure pitch
black.
There's no stars and there's no
nothing.
moon. It's just black.
Inky darkness. Gotham exists in a void.
So when I think of Gotham, like, this is what I think about. When people say Batman, the visual language of this movie is what pops into my head first. Over any comic I've read, over any cartoon, it's this. It is iconic. Danny Elfman, I already mentioned the score. I think
legendary.
I think it's probably his best score that he's ever done. And he's done some doozies. And doozies for superhero movies. He did the score for the first Batman movie. He did Batman Returns. He did Spider-Man 1 and 2. Those are great. He did the score for the Hulk, which is fantastic. The 2003 masterpiece that we will get to.
It's on the list.
There's another one of they would not make a movie.
No, they wouldn't, and maybe for good reason. I'll have to give it a rewatch to give my final verdict, but...
I guess before we go on to another segment and wrap it up, this is a Christmas movie. This is the last episode of Tongue and Cheer.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about how the movie comments on Christmas?
Sure.
If that's something you thought of or took note of?
It is, and it does it in sort of a roundabout way, because Christmas is used as aesthetic backdrop a lot, but a lot of the themes of the political messages that we've touched on and the sort of greed of Max Schreck is presented through the way his company is just omnipresent. Like, Shrek's is just everywhere, like his symbology is everywhere. You hear it on the radio all the time. You see those little flyers with like the logo, the little cat-faced logo on it. It's a lot of background visual storytelling in how we're supposed to interpret this as a Christmas film. Because in terms of the main story itself, it's not like Batman is all like, oh man, I don't like Christmas, Alfred, we gotta, and then Alfred's like, so we gotta make you get ready for Christmas. Like, everything that's happening with Christmas is just sort of background, but we're seeing it's more subtle in its messages, I think, and I'm not entirely sure what to make of it, aside from, the general anti-capitalist messages that we usually get in films like this.
It's interesting you mentioned the anti-capitalist part, because it was actually going to be more explicit. There was a part where the Penguin Gang was going to blow up a storefront, and it was a store that was just selling a bunch of Batman merch. So they kind of wanted to make like a cheeky sort of like comment on the rampant empty commercialization of stuff like this. But the studio made them cut it. And
I mean, Catwoman blows up a storefront. I think it's a storefront that she blew up.
Yeah, she's vandalizing a Shrek's department store, and she blows it up. I like that there is it's not anti-Christmas. It's kind of pointing out the human fallacy and how people's egos and their own selfish goals undercut what Christmas is supposed to be. Because Shrek, he goes down to give a speech, and it's completely disingenuous, completely hollow, but he's using, fluffy Christmassy language like, I wish I could give you all... I don't know why he kind of sounded like Bernie Sanders there. That's weird. I'm Christopher Walken, and I'm Max Schreck. And if I could give you Christmas cheer and world peace and a big Christmas bow, I would. Like, the movie's just kind of, there's this undercurrent of, Christmas is just another sort of mask society puts on.
Yeah, and I think...
they don't...
I think keeping all of it... I think keeping all of this in the background is good, because it kind of also presents that, like, there's nothing special about Christmas. Like, at the end of the day, it's another day on the year. People don't stop being greedy and selfish and manipulative, and people don't stop being people. The world doesn't stop running because Christmas is happening. The fact that it's background noise in this just shows that, like, it kind of undercuts the idea that, like, oh, it's Christmas, everything will work out, it's Christmas, there'll be a happy ending, it's Christmas. It's like, no. At the end of the day, it's just another date on the calendar.
Yeah, and that's why I think Alfred's so important, because every time he's around, he's doing something Christmassy. We see him in the beginning, he's carrying a bunch of presents in his arms. Presents for who? I don't know. Are they for Bruce?
I'm assuming...
Did he just buy and wrap a bunch of presents for Bruce?
I'm assuming they're from Bruce to maintain his social life for him, even though he's not going to look at the presents himself.
While there aren't any characters that are openly like, fuck Christmas, like, he's the only character who enjoys Christmas. We see him decorating this giant fucking tree in Wayne Manor that he needs a ladder to reach even the middle of, while Bruce is like consumed in his Bruceness.
Poor old man.
And
this poor old man.
No, he's good. He's doing his thing, and he's the only one who genuinely wishes Bruce a Merry Christmas at the end. Yeah, I don't know what my final point was, but I guess the people of Gotham, even the heroes, quote unquote, don't embody what Christmas is supposed to be about, even though it's surrounding them, even though it's omnipresent around them. So yeah, there's your Christmas message for your final
Christmas episode.
Fuck
you, Christmas doesn't mean anything. It's empty. It's hollow.
Unless you're Alfred Pennyworth. The beautiful, beautiful soul. Who is... I think Alfred is my favorite non-superpowered character in all the comics. I love Alfred so much. He's so perfect in every way. Canonically perfect man that Alfred is. And they killed him. He's dead. He's been dead in the comics for a couple of years now.
He'll be back.
Spoiler. I know he'll be back, but like, I'm surprised he's not back yet. So I'm surprised they've been keeping him dead for a while. Yeah, Bane killed him. Fucking
Bane's
Bane,
a bastard.
Anyway, are we doing segments? You got any seggies?
I really don't have that many. You know, I looked through some review, but like, it was all either people really loved it and went way too long on it, or they just kind of said this tone isn't for me. Like, it got an 81% critic and a 73% audience on Rotten Tomatoes, but like, there weren't really any fun, weird reviews for it, so...
If you want like fun analysis, you got to kind of Google it specifically.
We could check does the dog die for it? That was fun when we did it with the Grinch.
Check the dog die for it?
Does the dog die? Batman Returns. Do you have any segments besides Is It Horny, which we kind of just went through the whole thing?
I don't even think we like. This movie is horny as fuck in multiple ways. It's kinky. Batman and Catwoman got the kink going on hardcore the entire time. Tim Burton understood the assignment. He understood that there's a sexual component either on the surface or just below the surface in a lot of comic books and their characters, and he understands that. And so did Joel Schumacher by basically making the bat suits Greek sculptures with the nipples and the giant cod pieces and everything. Bring the horny back. Bring the kink back to superhero movies, please.
Okay.
It's desperately needed.
Batman Returns. Does the dog die? We're just going to go through the ones that got marked yes. Are animals abused? Yes. Selena puts a small bird in her mouth and pretends to eat it. It emerges unharmed. Okay. Is there a dead animal? Yes. Does an animal die? Yes. At the start of the movie, Oswald grabs onto a cat and fights it. You can never see it coming out of the cage, so it can be assumed it was killed. Hang on. Wait, what? Okay, this one's a no, but I'm wondering why anybody put it in. Does a dragon die?
See,
why was that put in
the doing this for the
first
Grinch
place? It's a no, but like...
When we were doing this for the Grinch, I was convinced that people put these in just to be trolls. Like, just to be, like, funny. So, like, does a dragon... Why on earth would there be a dragon in a Batman?
Who asked that?
Some furry who's just really...
Does a cat die? Yes, we just did that. Is someone gaslighted? Yes. Who's gaslighted?
Gotham. You could say Gotham is gaslighted by Penguin.
Is a child abused? Yes, obviously. Is there amputation? Yes. Oswald shows the mayor the amputated hand of one of his rivals. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Is someone burned alive? Yes. Someone is caught alight by the Batmobile. Does someone struggle to breathe? Yes.
Aren't we all struggling to breathe?
Does someone fall to their death? Yes. Is a child's toy destroyed? Yes. Is someone kidnapped? Yes. Does a parent die? Yes. Are there clowns? Yes. Are there jump scares? Yes. Does someone fart or spit? Yes. I love that. That's like a common one that shows up.
I like how fart and spit are combined into one question.
Is a mentally ill person violent? Yes. That's all of Batman. That's the entire We've had that conversation already. Does a baby cry? Yes. Is there shaky cam? Yes. Is there
No, there's not.
It doesn't have any comments on it. It just had 2 yeses for is there shaky cam. Is there ableist language or behavior? Yes.
Is there any comments on that one?
Yeah, the penguin was born with various physical malformations, which caused his parents to try and drown him as an infant. Throughout the movie, we're supposed to be disgusted with his appearance. His attempts to garner sympathy from Gotham residents is portrayed as obliviously duplicitous. Are there fat jokes? Yes. The comment on that is that the penguin is wearing a fat suit, which is supposed to contribute to the feeling of disgust towards his looks.
So that's an interesting conversation, because you have made an aside a couple times so far about being disgusted by him, but not because of his appearance.
No, because he's an actual monster, because he's a terrible person, which unfortunately gets conflated with physical deformity a lot. Yeah, that's an...
I was going to say there's the harmful trope, unfortunately, of deformity being a shorthand for villainy. But I could be my bias, considering this is one of my favorite movies talking, but I really think all of the disgust from Penguin comes from how he acts. Like, it truly has nothing to do with
I don't know.
It's his attitude, it's his behavior, it's his personality.
No, there's...
I don't think the movie frames him physically as something to be repulsed by.
I think it does. His teeth are crooked and like green. His suit is constantly dirty, and he is wearing this fat suit that gives him a very rotund, like, lower body too, like a penguin like. Yeah, I gotta agree there. There is some element of combining the, physical deformity with his personality, unfortunately. Does a car crash? Yes. Is someone hit by a car? Yes. Is there gun violence? Yes. Is there blood or gore? Yes. Okay. So does the dog die? This just so many weird... Is electrotherapy used? No. Like, there's just so... There's so much.
Just very oddly specific.
Yeah.
I really want to know who contributes to this website. Like, is
Silver
it like Wikipedia
Warrior Wolf 2
can,
did. They have names.
Silver Warrior Wolf?
Yeah. Tropical Remix.
Do they have
usernames? I don't think they have.
It's probably like a Wikipedia type thing. You can just you just log in and do whatever.
Yeah, with less editors keeping an eye on it. Yeah, but that's the Does the Dog Die review for it, so.
Alrighty then.
Alright.
I guess. Final question. Isaac, do you like Batman Returns?
I do. I think I definitely don't like it as much as you do, with it being one of your favorite films, but I think there's a lot to explore.
You hardly
here.
like anything as much as I do.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff that I like a lot more than you.
Okay, well, that's all I wanted.
You don't get nearly as excited for Sonic stuff as I do.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. We've got different tastes. But yeah, I really like it. I think there's definitely... It's, like you said, it's so different than any superhero stuff, even for its time period. Like, even when it did come out, it was so different compared to everything else. By now, it's a total enigma how this got made. It's just weird and different and interesting. Every character is a reflection of Batman, which is great. I love when a story actually connects everyone to the protagonist so we can explore their journey through the other characters. It's wacky and silly with its action.
It's wacky.
Aesthetic. All the one-liners we talked about. It's so dramatically designed and lit. It's got such a personality to it that even the parts that I don't like or don't care much for, it still feels like a distinct part of the film that you can't really take out without losing a sense of what the film's about.
All right. Good summation, my friend. Respect.
You want to rate the damn thing and be done with it?
Let's do it. I will rate Batman Returns 10 rocket-strapped penguins.
No!
Out of 10 happy Alfreds on Christmas.
I had 700 out of 1,000 missile-launching penguins. That was my rating. I knew that was going to be yours, too.
You can either keep that rating or create a new one up on the fly.
I'm going to give it 1 out of 2 ball-biting monkeys, now that we know.
Good thing Danny DeVito was wearing that suit.
Yeah, thank God for the fat suit. That saved Danny DeVito's nuts.
That's got me, Charlie. It's got me by the nuts.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. If you enjoyed the episode, please give us a like or comment, yada yada. You've heard this a million times before. Thank you so much for joining us for our second season.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm sick of saying it.
I'm sick of saying it. There's
Merry
nothing on the
Christmas.
Instagram. Merry Christmas. I'm skipping the self-promotion. Thank you for listening to Season 2 of Tongue and Geek. We're excited to return for Season 3, which will start in late January.
Yes.
Until then, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and remember, don't throw your deformed penguin baby in the sewer.
Tongue and Geek will appear in Infinity War.
Oh shit. Retroactively. They're gonna edit us in.
Hey, there's Tongue and Geek.
Who are those two white dudes? We get killed instantly.
We come out of the portal and the end of Endgame just, oh my god, those are those two more white guys on the internet.
Chitauri ship blows us up like before we even really step out. Oh boy.